Hey everybody, how's everybody doing? I hope y'all doing well. Welcome back to my channel. In my last video, I went over the fundamentals of creating a brand vision. I'll put the link here if you want to check out episode 1 to see how I created this business name. One thing I forgot to mention in my previous video was at the brand vision stage, you really want to secure all web domains and social platforms using your new brand name as possible, because brand names be going like hot honey to flies out there. As a disclaimer, I already did this myself before starting today's content. I'd love if you could leave a comment in my channel to let me know what you thought of the video, or if there's anything else you want me to go over or explain further. Also, if you learn anything or just like this video, give it a like and subscribe. It really helps my channel grow. So now that that's out of the way, let's get into it, baby. Ideating with words and illustrations can be the mother of your design process. You want to dump as many thoughts down at the beginning as possible to create your outlet for creation. I use a software that has a template built in for this reason. That's what I'm using right now. You don't have to use anything specific, but I love this one because you can share live streamlined ideas with your clients, and I'll be using this one today. I'm not sponsored at all for that reason. I'm not going to mention any product names in this video, but I'll list them in the description below. I dropped my categories for my brand. Since my brand has services and products, I jotted them down here, and I wanted to expand and grow my business. So I also added subcategories that inspired me. From these subcategories, I branched off further, writing down tools, environments, and commonly known items that are used to make my products or services. Here you can see I've collected a few things that showed up over the array of branches from my ideation tree, and then I turned them into some quick illustrations. Here's a really cool tip. I'm going to give the mouse clicker some dimension, so I added a blocked color drop shadow. My favorite way to do this is by duplicating one of the vectors, setting it aside, then selecting both vectors at the same time, going under the blending option, drop down, select steps, and then I added around 100 for a smooth blend. Then I expand the vector's appearance and join both vectors so that it's one solid item. And now you can have more interesting vector icons. I make all my illustrations in grayscale at first, so that way when I colorize them, I can pick colors of the same brightness level to ensure good contrast. There are a ton of websites that actually test this for you, and all you do is upload your colors to make sure they're accessible and approved for visually impaired people. That's because we want everybody to enjoy our brand. Now that we have some brand illustrations started, we can figure out what fonts match the overall vibe. I want to convey a sense of homemade and crafty, since that will be my brand's main focus. I sampled all of my fonts from my computer and then searched for some new fonts. I stray away from fonts that are like trending because I want my logo to be timeless, and I don't want to have to change it again in 3 years, which is one of the main problems with my first logo. I've just changed some of the layouts of the title here just because I wanted to see what that shape would look like, or if it can work in a different way rather than a straight line. And then I'm going to refer back to some of my illustrations and just see if anything can inspire me further to create a concept. I'm going to see if some of these match the vibe by just dragging them over, just seeing, could I see that on a poster? Could I see that on a tag for a clothing brand? Just to give it a more custom touch. I'm gonna narrow it down to about 3 fonts that I could envision working, and then I just play around and keep iterating it over and over. And I always save my last iterations so that I have an option to go back to without permanent changes. So I just keep playing with some different fonts, mixing them up a bit. I don't really care if it looks kind of crazy. I just see what it looks like, because maybe I can change it later. First font you see here, and this is the font that I actually go with at the end, it's at first to me seemed a little childlike, but when I saw it with the illustrations, it made sense, and I could almost envision it when it was colored, and I really like that. And then I remembered I had those illustrations I can drag in to maybe make it look a little bit more sophisticated. And then I started to see something that could work. I really like this layout here, so I wanted to iterate off of that even further. So here I grabbed the mouse. I really like how that's speaking to me. I feel that it shows my crafts and channel are revolved around being online and digital. And I altered some of the letters from the original typography to make it my own. Like, I changed the direction of the L. I jumbled some of the letters around to add a touch of chaos. I like how it looked in grayscale, so this is a great starting point. Like my mom, who's an excellent hairstylist, says, if you like your hair wet, you'll love it dry after a coloring process. And I think that's the same concept here. If you like branding in grayscale, it only gets better when it's saturated in color. So while I'm doing this, I'm just going to explain to you why I think it's really important to make a few illustrations at the very start of your branding process. You want to make sure you're giving your brand as many color options as you will see across the board of your brand. No one ever really explained this to me when I first started designing, and I had to find out on my own how many colors that my brand needed. So I'll explain it to you. My vector art, across the array of illustrations, I've encompassed about 5 different shades of gray. I need 2 primary colors, one for dark theme and one for light theme. These 2 colors should have the most contrast out of the entire palette. You don't need any more than this in theory, but my brand uses an additional 3 accent shades. So I start coloring the shades by using the HSB dials, the hue, saturation, and brightness dials on the color window. I want to keep the original brightness as much as possible so I can assure optimal accessibility. Using a combination of my mood board and color theory, I'll move the dials until I find a palette I want to try. Keep in mind, I actually have this green in color, but I've kind of grayed it out for, you know, some cinematic effect at the end so you can see it all colored in. I'll make a few squares of color from my palette, and I'll try the different colors on top of one another to make sure that they contrast enough and also have good color harmony. Once I tweak it and perfect it, I start applying the shades across my entire branding that I have so far. Even in grayscale, this looks better already. So my logo I thought looked really nice as one solid color, but I think for my brand, I want to include all the colors in my palette because I think it represents the variety of products and services I have. And I try a few different patterns and come up with this one at the end. Okay, now I'm ready for the next step in the design process, which is making brand assets and choosing a typography. If you enjoyed this video, follow along with me in part 3 as I continue down the marketing trail.